Welcome back, level 2. For our lidded jar assignment, the first lid we're going to throw is this lovely little flat lid. I call it a flat lid because the bottom here is perfectly flat. Okay, it's going to have a little inset ridge here, and it's going to fit right on top of your lidded jar. Boom, just like that. Okay, now here's my lidded jar from the other assignment, and now I'm going to throw the lid. All right. The thing you're going to need, which is super important, is your little slip of paper from your wet jar that you just got done throwing. All right, whether you threw it 3 days ago or you threw it right now, you're going to need this. We lined it up, as it were, with the Y position this way. Now you're going to open it, and you're going to line it up so that it's just touching your pencil line. And you're going to tighten the wing nut. Make sure that it's still accurate. Just touching your pencil line. And now you've got your measurement here for how big your lid is going to be. It's going to be that big. So I'm going to set this one aside over here on my wheel and leave that for later. Now I've got this little chunk of clay. This is probably about 1/4 pound. It's really quite small. Might be your first time trying to start out with a lump of clay this small. So it can be a little challenging trying to get a little piece of clay going on. But here we go. Centering it is a little bit challenging because it's kind of small, but you'll get used to it. Just use your hands and your fingers rather than your whole hand. You can just center with your fingers kind of. You can almost use your left hand or your non-dominant one as a brace and just like use your fingers. So I'm going to center this chunk of clay, and the truth of the matter is centering is super easy because it's so small. You don't really have to fight against much. Okay, now you've got your lump of clay. It's pretty reasonable. Now what you're going to do is right about here, instead of opening in the middle, you're just going to take this clay and you're going to press it down like that. And as you press it down, you're just going to keep your finger nice and flat. Now I've got this lump of clay in the middle. That's going to become our knob. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that and pinch that little knob up, almost like I'm centering even a smaller amount of clay. Now at this point, you can take this little knob and you can do whatever you want with it. If you want to have it like a divot on the inside, you can push your finger in carefully and make a little divot. If you want it to be rounded and have more of a lump, you can pull this up in the middle and change the shape of it. Whatever you want. If you want to use the rib to like do some more refined work on your lid, you can too. Whatever you're feeling. Okay? The shape doesn't matter. Or rather, the shape of the knob doesn't matter. What matters is that it's thrown nicely and it has good craftsmanship, and I can see that it's in center and you've made a thoughtful choice about what you'd like it to look like. Okay, now I'm just going to kind of continue to take this piece. I'm just going to press my thumb down and flatten it even more. Like that. I'm going to make sure my knob is nice and even and the clay coming out is nice and even. Now, take the beloved calipers, hold it right over the center, lead with your right side so that you get your line on there. Now you can kind of see that little faint line right there. And at this point, you can use your needle tool. Now you don't want to be jabbing this into the wheel. head very much, but you're just going to take this needle tool, gently go down till you feel the wheel head. Okay? Then you can turn your wheel head off, or your wheel off. Cut this open, and we can just get that little bit out now. You can use your wooden rib. I'm just going to cut that portion away. Okay, now that I've got that all cut away, I'm just going to clean it up a little bit. I'm going to make sure the edge is nice and square. And then I'm going to measure it one more time before I take it off. Now, it got a little bit too small because I cut a little bit too much away. So, no problem. I'm just going to turn it back up and pull out a little bit more clay. I'm going to press down a little bit more. Pull it out just a little bit. Square it off. Go back to measure. Needs to come in just a little bit. I'm just going to cut right underneath that. Double check it. Still just a little bit too big. So I'm going to cut a little bit away with my rib. And flatten. And you can go back and forth with this until you feel like it is just the right shape. Or rather, the right size. All right, and that should do it. I'm going to take my rib one more time and do a really tight undercut so that there's a little teeny lip underneath there. Press it back down one more time. Measure it, and measuring this is essential. If it's not the right size, it's not going to fit. All right, there we go. Perfect. Now, turn off your wheel. Add a little bit of water on the edge here so it'll slide off easily. Bring it out to the edge of the wheel. And I might recommend sliding it off and setting it down carefully on the same board. Now, as this dries and becomes more leather hard, you can just refine it and like smooth it out if there's any little chunks or nubbins. All right. In the next video, I'll show you how to make an inset lid.